הגיע הזמן להתעורר, לעזוב הכל, להתגבר, לשוב הביתה, לא לחפש מקום אחר. הגיע הזמן להשתנות, גם אם פספסנו תחנות, אפשר לרדת, יש רכבת, חזרה לשכונות. הכל אפשר רק אם נרצה, המחפש תמיד מוצא, גם אם הוא נמצא שם הרחק בקצה. דלתות שמיים לא ננעלו, כשהבן קורא הצילו, אבא שבשמיים מגיע אפילו שעשינו משהו רע, הוא מוחל וסולח, מושיט ידו לעזרה, ונותן ברחמיו את הכוח לתקן ולשוב אליו. אם כבר לברוח אז מאחת, אם כבר לקחת אז לקחת בשביל לתת. וזה הזמן להתקרב, לא לפחד מהכאב, ואם לתת אז כבר לתת מכל הלב. הכל אפשר רק אם נרצה, המחפש תמיד מוצא, גם אם הוא נמצא שם הרחק בקצה. דלתות שמיים לא ננעלו, כשהבן קורא הצילו, אבא שבשמיים מגיע אפילו שעשינו משהו רע, הוא מוחל וסולח, מושיט ידו לעזרה, ונותן ברחמיו את הכוח לתקן ולשוב אליו. אפילו שעשינו משהו רע, הוא מוחל וסולח, מושיט ידו לעזרה, ונותן ברחמיו את הכוח לתקן ולשוב אליו.
And in fact, we will go to class. Let's just bring this bar back up there. All right. And let's bring that down. And here we go. We're in chapter 26. And by now, David has married Abigail. And let's go back to those last Pesukim, if we have it. Okay. So he marries Abigail, and he marries Achinoam. And we learned last week in enormous detail, the Malbim explaining the whole story about King Saul and his daughter Michal, taking her away, giving her to Palti ben Laish, and all of those issues. Now, where we also left off is that Saul apologized and said and recognized he was wrong to pursue David. He recognized, I'm just so sorry. You're right. David brought to his attention that he could have killed him. He even cut a piece of Saul's garment, Shaul HaMelech. And when Saul realized that, he referred to David as his son again. Are you my son, David? And, I realize it. And he apologizes. How did he put it? He says, let's look. He says, okay, as when David finished saying these things to Saul, Saul said, is that your voice, my son David? Vayom Shaul, hakol chaza b'ni David, va'isa Shaul kol avayev. He broke down crying. Oh my God, look who I've been trying to kill, who I've been pursuing to die. He said to David, you're right, not I. Atat tzaddik atami meni. You're the tzaddik, you're righteous. You're greater righteous than I am. Ki ata gemaltani hatova va'ani gemalticha hara'ah. for you've treated me only kindly, and I've treated you horribly. Yes, you've revealed how generously you treated me. Higadata yom et asher asiti li tova, et asher sigarani Hashem biyadcha v'lo haraktani. God handed me over to you, and you chose not to kill me. I mean, if a man meets his enemy, does he let him go away unharmed? Look what you've done. You've given me another chance at life. The Lord will reward you generously for this. I now know you will become king. Ata with an ayin, hinei yadati ki malachtim la, v'kama biyadcha mamlechet Yisrael, and it'll be in your hands that the dynasty of Israel and the kingship is handed. I now recognize it. When we learned the Midrash, that part of it was that Shmuel, the prophet, had told Shaul, the king, that I cannot disclose to you exactly who will be your successor, but just as you tore my garment, you, Shaul, tore my garment, that of Samuel the prophet, thus it will be that some man in the future will tear your garment. That's the one who's going to succeed you. So that's Shaul. And all he's asking, he's saying, I completely give up. I recognize you'll be the next king. I only ask you to swear to me by the Lord that you will not wipe out my household, my family, my descendants, or wipe out my name. Please. And David swore to him. And Saul went home, took his soldiers back, and that was the end of it. And David went back to his strongholds. And the expression you would like to have is Shalom al Yisrael. Shalom al Yisrael. With that, peace on Israel. But we now see in chapter 26, after the segue of the experience where he tried to get sustenance from Nabal, the rich guy who wouldn't give him anything, so his wife, the wife Abigail came with everything, and that whole chapter. We're now in Perek Chafav, and look what happens. Vayavo hazifim el Shaul. So remember where Ziph is. Let's take the other map. So, and let's make that map bigger. Instead of 90, let's make it big. Okay, that'll be a good size. So to remind you, David was in the wilderness of Ziph at one point, right? So there's Yavus or Yerushalayim. You come down, there's Beit Lechem or Bethlehem. Come down more, you've got Hebron, where our ancestors, our forebears, Abraham and Sarah, Abraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Isaac and Rebekah, Yaakov and Leah, Jacob and Leah, they all repose there. Bethlehem is where Rachel, Kever Rachel, the tomb of Rachel is. And then a little bit more south, getting towards En Gedi, is the area of Ziph. And we've been learning about that. Nabal was in Carmel. His sheep were in Carmel. He was based in Maon. His sheep were grazing in Carmel, in the wilderness of Maon. David was back and forth to the wilderness of Ziph and Choresh and those places. So people from Ziph, keep in mind again, in those days there was no television or email or texting or Twitter or X or Facebook or Meta or Instagram or TikTok. I mean, in those days, news traveled incredibly slowly. And in Ziph, they still had not gotten the news that Saul, King Shaul, had made peace with David, and that the war or the enmity was over. He was at peace. They didn't know it. And so they came to Saul, afraid that David's in their midst. And we know that when David was in the midst of Nov, the city of the Kohanes, the Kohanim, the priests, it culminated with Saul, Melech Shaul, killing 85 Kohanim. And they don't want that to happen to them. They don't want to be accused of being traitors. And they know Saul's not easy with that stuff. So they come unaware that there's peace now between Saul and David. They come to report to Saul. Let's see. More. They come and they say, hello, David, Mistater b'givat hachachila al pnei ha'yeshimo. David is hiding in the hill of Hachila. And now Saul goes, unbelievable. He goes to kill David. Unbelievable. Like, what's that about? And let's learn something promptly. You have to be very careful. I mean, most of us, if not all of us, are older rather than 20 years old, 22 years old. Most of us have lived some life. And because we've lived life, I want to guess most of us have been burned from time to time, even from people we really thought we could trust. First time I ever was burned that way was in college. At Columbia University, they have a university senate, and it's comprised of representatives of three levels of the university: the administrators, people who run the joint, the faculty, professors, and the students. And their university senate, school by school by school of the university, the medical school, the law school, the dental school, the engineering school, all the different school of social work, school of international affairs, and the college, the undergraduate school. For each school, there are delegates to the university senate. Some from like the college administration gets 3 seats, and the college faculty get 3 seats, and the college students get like 1 seat or 2 seats. And the law school gets, the administration gets 3 seats. Okay. So I was a young kid, comparatively, in college, and I was actually one of 2 students elected. I don't know how this happened because it's such a left-wing college, and I'm such a kind of, well, I don't like to talk politics in Torah classes. I'm not quite as left-wing as they are. Let's put it this way. Unlike other students and unlike the majority, I wasn't a communist, okay? Let's leave it at that. So, God, how they elected a non-communist to represent them. But I got elected. I had name recognition. Don't ask how I got that name recognition. And there were 2 students elected to represent the student body, Don Kurth, non-Jewish guy, and myself. So Don and I were like 2 guys in a foxhole. We were the 2 representing the students of the college in a university senate of 140 senators with all the different schools and all the different, there were only 2 of us. So we were like bosom buddies. So I got very close to Don. He was close to me. And the word got out that they're forming committees. The Senate is forming committees, and they're urging senators to select students from outside the Senate to bring more students into the process. And let's say Don and I were given 3 seats to fill on a certain committee. So Don picked someone, and I picked someone. And I told Don that she's very knowledgeable and qualified and everything. And she's also my fiance. Linda was at Barnard College, part of the university. And I said, she'll be great. And I said, I think she'll be great. And we had a meeting, we had a caucus, the students' caucus. It was made up of the student representatives who represented law school students and medical students and the social work students and the engineering students and the college students. So there were all these different coalitions. There were the law school representatives of the faculty and the administration of the students, and then it was horizontal. There were the students. So there's a meeting of like 40 students representatives, and we're going through everything. And the main guy, who we all elected to be the head of the students. So we went through, anybody have anything to say? I'm about to approve all of this. And Don Kurth gets up and says, yeah, I think as a matter of propriety, I need to report that David, I went by my English name, that David Fischer has acted in an act of nepotism, naming someone he's going to marry to one of those committees. I was just shocked. First of all, she was totally qualified. second of all, it was a dumb committee, didn't take anything. Any student in the college or Barnard could do it. And why not name her? She could use it on her resume. What's the difference? I mean, come on. John F. Kennedy named his brother to be the Attorney General. Give me a break. This is not the Attorney General. This is the head of like the committee on picking up garbage on campus. So he turned me in. And next thing I knew, I felt like what's going on with Clarence Thomas and Hunter Biden. It was like, I learned a very important lesson. You can't trust people. You can't trust only family. I hate to say it. And maybe someone that's been a friend for 25, 30 years, then they're already family. Once they start telling you about their kidney problems, then they're family. But it's like you can only trust family. It's a crazy thing, and it's a horrible thing in a way. And maybe we have one or two or three real friends in life that we could trust. But this is an important takeaway, what we're learning in Perek Vav, that you would think by now, and by the way, Saul, his family is his father-in-law, but it is an in-law. The thing is that it's kind of shocking. That's why I went back 2 chapters for a few moments. I thought it was over. I thought we're at peace now. I thought we made up. We kissed. I thought it's all good. And all of a sudden, he's trying to kill him all over again. It's a very important lesson. You have to be careful. You have to be careful who we trust, what we trust them with. Not that people are going to come and try to kill you, but we have to know. So let's go back to the text. So Saul comes to the wilderness of Ziph. He brings an army of 3,000 men against David. What did we say? David had 400 men. 3,000 against 400. What the? Levakesha David. The goal is to find David, b'midbar Ziph, in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul encamped on the hill of Hachilah, v'David yoshev b'midbar, and David's in the wilderness. Vayar kiva Shaul acharav b'midbar, and he sees, oh no, here it comes again. Saul's coming for me. Oh God. Vayishlach David meraglim. David sent spies from among his 400 into Saul's camp. Va'edah kiva Shaul el Nachon. Wanted to be sure Saul had come and in pursuit of him. Maybe the king is just touring his country. And David surreptitiously, late at night, sneaked into the camp where Saul and his men were. Vayar David et hamakom asher shachav sham Shaul, the Avner ben Ner Sartzvah. The head of Saul's armies was Abner. Avner is transliterated for better or worse as Abner. Avner, the son of Ner. So Avner, the son of Ner, was Saul's chief of staff of the military. And David tiptoed into the camp. V'Shaul shochev b'ma'agal, v'ha'am chonim svivotav. And it was late at night, and everybody in the camp were sleeping. Everybody. There were like almost no sentries to maintain guard at night. Why should they? It's the middle of Israel. It's the middle of their country. Where is it? I mean, it's the country of Israel. Nobody's trying to assassinate the king. He's in the wilderness of Ziph, in this general area. No one's going to bother him. It's way away from the Philistines. The other side is the Dead Sea. No one's coming. So everybody's sleeping. And Vaya'an David Vayomer el Achimelech Achiti ve'el Avishai ben Sruya Achi Yoav lemo. David having discerned that Saul and his camp now were fast asleep, it was middle of the night, he turned to two of his people, to Achimelech, one of the people with him, and Avishai. And Avishai, see, David also had a chief of staff. At that point, for 400 men. Later, when he became king, he retained the same chief of staff for the armies of Israel. That was Yoav, the son of Tsuya. And Tsuya had other sons, including Avishai. So Avishai was the brother of the chief of staff. Since our theme here is nepotism, and it's not nepotism, for goodness sakes. He's a qualified people. So David went to Achimelech and to Avishai, the brother of his chief of staff, and he said, I prefer to have one or two people go with me. Mi yered iti el Shaul el hamachane. Who is willing to come with me to Saul's camp? Vayomer Avishai, ani ered imach. Avishai said, I'll come with you. So the two of them sneaked back to that camp. It's the middle of the night. Vayavo David Avishai el ha'am laila. David and Avishai entered Saul's camp, middle of the night. V'hinei Shaul shochev yashen b'magal. And Saul is asleep inside the barricade. V'chanito me'ucha ba'aretz merashotav. And his spear, what do you do? Imagine you have a spear. So what do you do with your spear? You stick it in the ground. You see why? In case you are surprised in the middle of the night, so you can pull it right away. So you keep it kind of quasi upright by sticking it in the ground. So you can grab it. With guns, there are many people that sleep with a gun under their pillow. If you're in that culture and environment, that they sleep with a pillow under their gun. With a gun, that's if they really want to protect themselves. With a gun under their pillow. So if God forbid something happens, the thought is they'll be able to quickly grab the gun before they even turn around. I don't want to get into all of that. But that's how you leave a spear. So Saul has his spear sticking out right next to him, and he's lying down there sleeping. Va'avner v'ha'am, and his chief of staff of the military, Abner, and the whole 3,000 men he's got with him, shochvim svivotav, everybody, he's sleeping in the middle, and to protect him, they're all sleeping around. They're doing a great job protecting him. And basically, it's almost comical the way, but it's not. But David, it's like Mission Impossible, the TV show. David and Avishai sneaking. Vayomer Avishai el David, Sigar Elokim hayom et oivcha biyadecha. And Avishai says to David, God this day has given over your enemy into your hands. We can kill him right now with his own spear. It's right here. For once and for all, we can do it. With one swipe. V'lo eshnelo. We won't have to hit him twice. He won't know what hit him. Vayomer David el Avishai, al tashchiteu. David says to him, we can't do violence to him. Who would ever be forgiven by God Almighty if he smote the anointed of God? Vayomer David. So David says, God forbid that I should smite him. This is something I'm going to have to leave to God to smite him, if that's God's will. Or he'll simply die a natural death when his time comes. But I can't be the one. Over milchama, or maybe he'll die at war. So maybe God will smite him with like a disease, or maybe he'll just die of old age. His time will come, or maybe he'll die in battle. Vinispa, and he'll perish. But I'm not going to be the one. Chas v'chalila, God forbid, chalila limei Hashem, mishloch yadi b'mshiach Hashem. God forbid that I should strike he who is anointed by God. And what's going through my mind, I got to tell you, you ever watch a TV show or a movie where someone, like there's these two sides or these two people and they're trying to kill each other? Or like a mafia movie, Godfather, or anything by Scorsese, or any kind of movie where two people are trying to kill each other. And then one, or TV show, and then one guy has a pistol and he catches the other guy. And instead of just shooting him, he talks for 20 minutes. Says, I've been waiting to catch you all this time. And I want you to know, you've been trying to get around for me, you dirty rat. And it just goes on and on and on. And after about 20 minutes, someone sneaks up behind him and kills him. You ever notice that? It's like, who talks 20 minutes? In a setting like that, you kill him and then you have the conversation later. You get out of there and then you go to Starbucks or whatever and you go Baskin Robbins and you talk about it over pralines and cream. Who sits and has a 20-minute conversation? They're in the middle of the camp. And he's going on. We can't hit him. We can't talk to him. And we'll get him. Maybe it'll happen this way. Maybe it'll happen that way. Maybe it'll this, maybe that. But it just hits me that I would think he would say, listen, we're going to take the spear. We're going to get out of here. I'll explain to you my thinking after we skedoodle. Meantime, mum's the word. And don't even say mum. So anyway, he has that conversation, but you see his holiness. You see the holiness and sanctity of King David long before he becomes king. This is why he is God's anointed, because he's actually not doing the normal thing. Any normal person would kill Saul, not out of vengeance or hatred, but to save his own life. And by now, all bets are off, because no matter how this one resolves, he's got to figure, even if Saul weeps and cries and promises never to do it again, he's got to figure, what's the expression? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. How many times can I be fooled by this? The old thing with Lucy and the football and Charlie Brown. Here we go. What other Bible class did they bring in Charles Schultz? Anyhow, so here's what we're going to do. I'm not going to cut his garment again. Been there, done that. Not such a good thing to have done. We're going to take his spear, and we're going to take his water jug, his canteen, and let's get out of here. So he takes the spear, and he takes the water jug, the canteen, and they get out of there. And no one sees, and no one knows, and no one wakes up. They're all incredibly fast asleep. And this is miraculous. Let's understand. And again, I try not only to teach you a Bible sentence and a Bible verse, but to help us walk away with lessons for life. When there are so many things that happen in your life, I know in mine, and I know I'm not a prophet of God. I'm just one more person in the world. And I know what happens in my life. And I'm not Isaiah or Jeremiah or Ezekiel. So I know what happens in your lives too. There are things that happen that we don't even think about that are God's miracles. And we don't even think about it. And we need to develop that kind of radar to recognize God's miracles every day. Every day, God's miracles. The little decisions we make that make no sense, where he plants little seeds for something later, or everybody's sleeping. It's not natural that no one was woken up, no matter how quiet they were. It could be natural, but very unusual. 3,000 men. No one stirred. No one woke up. I mean, things happen in our lives You ever make a mistake crossing the street once in your life in the last 40, 50 years? One time, did you ever cross the street and a car had to slam on the brakes because you had a mind freeze and you almost got run over once in your life? What if the guy didn't stop? Did you ever drive a car and almost run someone over? If you're in one of the states where they allow you to make a right turn on a red light, on a stop sign, so you're at a stop and you're making a right turn, and meantime, some person is crossing the street, not anticipating it, and you turn and you slam on the brakes. That's actually a miracle. That's when you were younger, particularly when you were younger. Did you ever have an experience where you were short on cash in college and in an early in your marriage, or as a single person, and suddenly Uncle David sent you $1,000 for some reason that made no sense, or $50, did you ever have that in your life? Ever? Did you ever have an experience in your life where for some reason you decided to go to a doctor to have a checkup for something you weren't even going to do it, but someone else said you should do it, or they were talking about they did it, so you decided maybe I should do it, and then it turned out they actually found something in time because you went? You ever have that? So many things. Did you have someone you married that worked out well? And you look back, how did we meet? What prompted, how did that ever happen in a lifetime? There are so many miracles, and we take them so for granted, we don't think about them. I've talked about it, so I don't want to take your time, but you know how I met Denise and vice versa. It really all stemmed from a particular venue having a smell of mold. That's it. Denise went to a Seder, and she loved the rabbi and the Seder, but the place had a smell of mold. So the following year, when it was time for Seder, she decided to go to a different public Seder. And that place smelled delightful, but the rabbi wasn't good. And then the third year, she was going to try somewhere else, and she actually signed up for somewhere else. And last minute, for a reason won't go into, she decided to look online, had buyer's regret, decided to look online and see if there were any other Seder. And she found our website. So she went to our Seder. Because there was something about the screwy way if you ever look at our website Seder page, it's more frolicky, it's more casual. Only the year before, a couple who came to our Seder criticized me. We go from table to table of the Seder. And we ask people, how's the Seder? How's it going? How am I doing? Explaining everything. How's the food? And we talk to the people. Like we're hosts there. Like we're hosts at a bar mitzvah, only it's a Jewish event. So anyway, I went to one table. One table said, I like you say it's great, but we almost didn't come because we don't like your website. It's too informal. It's too casual. We almost didn't come. We thought it's not going to be a serious thing. You should change the way you lay out your website. And I said, I'll think about it. And I really did. And I decided they're right, but I'm too lazy. So I left it up, decided like everything else, one of these days I'll do it. Right after I file my backlog of bills. So next year, Denise was having buyer's regret of her Seder, saw the casual schlock website, and decided, I like a schlock website. So she came to the Seder, and that's the part of the story I'll tell you now. And we ended up getting married a few years later. It's a miracle. If the first place hadn't been moldy, if I had fixed the web page and made that other lady happy, et cetera, these things happen. And there are miracles, how I met Rabbi Ellen, and just so many miracles in life. So many things. And if it happened in my life, it happened in your life. Because I'm not special. I just have developed a greater radar to be able to spot these. So miraculously, Ein Mekitz, no one's waking up. And the Tanakh tells us, the Bible explains, Ki tardemat Hashem nafla alehem. because an unusually deep sleep from the Lord had fallen upon them. God basically administered anesthesia. That's really what it was. It was divine anesthesia. And Vayavor David ha'ever, Vayamor Rosh Hahar. So David goes and crosses to the other hilltop, from hilltop to hilltop. It may seem hard to picture, but again, in those days, you could yell from one hilltop to the other. Merachok, Rafa Makom B'neim. There was ample distance between them, such that it would be safe for David to yell from one hilltop to the other hilltop. Vayikra David el ha'am, v'el Avner ben Ner lemor. David, once safely positioned atop his own hilltop, facing Saul's and his army's hilltop, cried out to the other hilltop. And he cried out towards Avner ben Ner, Abner the son of Ner, and all of them. Hello, Tanya Avner. Abner, you have some answering to do. Vayan Avner v'omer. And Avner here's this yelling coming in the middle of the wilderness. Where the heck is this? What? Mi'ata karat el hamelech. Who's calling? Who's calling at the king's camp? Vayomer David el Avner. So David says to Abner, Hello, Ishata. Umichamocha b'Yisrael. You're a special guy. Who is like you? Who is as prominent among you, among all of Israel like you? A person of your stature, v'loma lo shamarta al Adonacha hamelech. Why, a person of your stature, did you fail to guard your Lord, the King of Israel? Because someone from the nation actually entered the camp to assassinate your Lord, the King. This is a pretty bad thing. This is not a good thing. This is not good. Chai Hashem, as God is witness, you deserve to die. Asher lo shmartem al Adonechem, because you failed to guard your king. Al Mashiach Hashem, you were given the incredible honor and responsibility of guarding the body of the anointed of God. You actually are a ben mavet. You deserve to die. So go and look right now. Where's the king's spear and his canteen, his jug of water? Huh? Vayaker Shaul called David. And Saul recognized David's voice. Here we go again. Hakol chazebni David. Is this your voice, my son David? Is that your voice, my son? All over again. Vayomer David, Koli Adoni Hamelech. Yeah, it is my voice, my Lord King. Vayomer lo, Lama ze Adoni rodef acharei avdo. And David again asked, why in the world, my Lord, do you pursue your servant? Kime asiti. What have I done? Uma biadi ra'ah. What in the world have I done that's wrong? What am I guilty of? Ba'ata, with an ayin, yishmana adoni hamelech. And please, this time now, I'm asking my Lord to hear me out again at Divrei Avdo, to hear the words of his loyal servant. Im Hashem hasitcha bi, yarach mincha. Okay, if God has incited you to be against me again, I think you should offer a sacrifice, or I'll offer a sacrifice if that's the problem, to bring peace. And if the reason you're coming against me is because God is putting that into your head, I will offer a sacrifice offering of peace so that it motivates God Almighty in heaven to further peace and bring peace between you and me. And if the reason you're running after me again to kill me is because people have motivated you and incited you and gotten into your head with all kinds of garbage, attacking me, Arurimheim Lefnei Hashem, may they be cursed by God. Ki gershuni hayom mehistapech benachalat Hashem, because they, through their incitements and evil slander that has gotten into your head, the result has been that I can't live a normal life. I can't live among other Jews. I'm living as a fugitive on the run. This is crazy. I don't have a life. Please. I mean, lechavod Elohim achirim. It's like it's driving me to run and worship other gods, because everywhere I go, it's like to go into the only place you can worship the God of Israel is among the people of Israel in the land of Israel in those days. Today, a Jew can worship the God of Israel in France, in Ukraine, and in Russia, in the United States, Canada, in Africa, just about everywhere except for most Arab countries where they have apartheid. Ironically, the left accuses Israel of apartheid, which is such a lie, when apartheid is predominant among all the Arab Muslim countries. David is, in those days, there was only one place a Jew could worship the God of Israel, the land of Israel. If in the Philistines' land, no way, Jose, nor in the land of the Ammonites, Ammon, you had to worship their God, and Moab, you had to worship Chemosh, the god of Moab. The Philistines, it was Baal, etc., etc. And David's saying, you're basically driving me to worship other gods. The commentators, I won't take out the time now, talk about it, what David would observe other gods, would worship. They're saying, no, he wouldn't worship other gods. He doesn't mean it that way. He's talking expressively, not literally. What you're doing is you're forcing me. I can't daven like the equivalent of a shul. I can't daven. I can't worship with Jews. You're forcing me into isolation and exile where no one worships the God of Israel, only worship other gods. Look what you're doing to me. Let me have a life. Be'atah, whenever I say, for those of you that are not strong in Hebrew, whenever I say atah with an ayin, atah with an aleph means you, Y-O-U. Atah with an ayin means now. Be'atah al yipol dami artza. So please, David says, don't spill my blood to the ground in the presence of God. Because it's crazy. Ki yotza melech Yisrael levakesh et parosh echad. I'm a flea, F-L-E-A. I'm just a flea. I'm a mosquito. I'm nothing. I'm so insignificant. Why would you take 3,000 people to hunt me down? Kasher your dov hakore beharim. As Saul answers, Chatati, shuv b'nei David. Once again, David, I have sinned. Chatati, you say that on Yom Kippur. Chatati, I have sinned. Shuv, again. Once again, I've sinned, my son David. Kilo aralecha od. And that's it. I will never do this again. I don't know if I'm David, I'm not going to trust him. I trust that he means it. I trust that at this second in time, he means it. He's no Don Kurth. He's not going to turn around on me. He really means it. But there's something not right with him. By virtue of God often removing the Spirit of God from him, there's something not right with him. I just can't trust him. I trust his honesty. I don't believe for a moment he would lie. But I can't trust the that he will stick to it. So he says, Lo aralacha o tachat asher yokra nafshi beinacha yomasa. I will not run after you again, because I see how precious you treat my life. Oh my God, I've erred. Eshkeh, like from the word meshuga and shigaon. I'm so wrong. Like meshugana, like meshuga. That's the word eshkeh. I'm so wrong. I'm so off the tracks here. And I've done it again. Harbe ma'od, again and again. So very much. David said, here's your majesty's spear. All things being equal, I'd rather not bring it back to you, nothing personal. And I certainly would never ask you, the king, to come to me. Let one of your young men come and get it. I don't want to ask it of you, and I certainly don't want to take my chances. So Hashem yashiv la'ish et sitkato v'et emunato asher netancha Hashem yom biyad v'lo aviti l'shloch edi Mashiach Hashem. So it'll all be fine, and everybody's going to be safe, and nobody's going to get hurt. And please, b'nei kasher godla nafshecha hayom hazeh be'einai. And please, King Saul, my father-in-law, or whatever our relationship is now, the way that I have so valued your life, so much so, I spared you. Please, tigdal nafshi be'einei Hashem, v'yatzileni mikol ra. Please may it be that God saves me and values my life. So may the Lord value my life. Vayomer Shaul el David, Baruch atah b'nei David. And Saul closes out the chapter. Obviously not, in his mind, he's not closing a chapter. He's closing a chapter with a small c, not chapter 26. It closes out the chapter. Baruch atah b'nei David. May you be blessed, my son David. Gam aso ta'aso, v'gam yachol tuchal. Anything you ever do, anything you ever undertake, may it be blessed. Vayelech David ledarko. You'll notice again, David does not at that moment say, oh, this is so beautiful. I'm bringing my army, my 400 men over. I want to hug and embrace you, and we're going to join up with you. He's cautious. He has too much experience. So it says he goes ledarko. He goes his way. Shaul shavim kamo. And Saul goes his way to his place. And a song that I'm going to play now, not Yishai Reba, these are the reasons that David became and was chosen by God to be the king of Israel. And these are the reasons there are two famous versions of the song David, King of Israel, Lives Forever. And I'd like to sing them both for you. I mean, not myself, but I'd like you to hear the two versions. Real quickly, we have just a few moments and enough time. The first version, I assume, is the classic one. Let me just pull it up here, see how this goes. 2 minutes. And if it's not the classic one,
God without fault in a.
That's the problem when you try to call it. That's the problem when you try to call an audible in the middle. That's Jewish kids sing along. So that's going to be the classic one. Studio! Oh, come on. That's I'm sorry. I'm having a tear or two in my eye. I'm remembering being in kindergarten in Yeshiva Rambam with Mora Rothenberg, who led us in that song. Hey, come on. And this is the Shlomo Carlebach version. Shlomo Carlebach took that children's version that children have been dancing to and singing to for years and years and years. I'm going to do it one more time. Sorry, just bear with me. There we go. That's what I wanted. David Melech Israel, Chai Chai V'Kayam. 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 So the words again mean David Melech Israel, David, the king of Israel, Chai V'Kayam, lives forever. And then Shlomo Carlebach, Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, felt that it was a little too much a children's song. And so he wrote the other classic version, which has become equally important. And so I share this one.
אין כעם ישראל שאוהב את כל העולם, אבל אין כעם ישראל. אין כעם ישראל. רבותיי, עם הרבה שמחה ממש עם כל הלב, שמונה. דוד מלך, מלך ישראל, דוד מלך ישראל, דוד מלך, מלך ישראל, מלך ישראל. היי וקיים, היי ושמח, שמח טוב. Mother, 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 oh, Vayelanu kol Yisrael, hey, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 David Melech, Melech Yisrael, David Melech, Melech Yisrael, Melech Yisrael, Kalekaya, Sema, Sema, Tov, Mother, 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 Tov, Ayelanu, Kol Yisrael, Amen. La 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 la, la 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 la. Mother, mother, mother,
Well, we're past the just a little bit past the time, and I had a good cry between minute 1 and minute 2. Growing up, I lived on the Upper West Side when I was in college. I didn't expect to talk about college today, and I'm not going, but I lived in the Upper West Side, and Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach lived about 20 blocks away, that's a mile. Every Friday night, a group of 8 of us used to go to his apartment after dinner. We'd go there about 10 o'clock p.m. And he would, on Friday night, he couldn't play the guitar, and he would tell us stories. You may recall, for example, I once did a story with a group, his story about Yosela the miser. He had amazing stories, and we would go and we'd listen to his stories for about an hour on Friday night. And then without the guitar, he would sing a cappella, and we would sing with him these songs. And then sometimes on Shabbat mornings, we used to go. He had a little shtibel. He had a shul in his home on West 79th Street and Broadway. And every so often we would go there, and that's where we would daven on Shabbat morning. And he'd be the guy that led davening. And davening would be like what should be a 2-hour davening would be 5-hour davening, because every sentence would be another one of his songs in the prayers. So it would just be singing and singing and singing, which is why we didn't go every week. But every so you had to do it. When we were in college, you did that kind of thing. And he was just an extraordinary person. But anyway, I wanted to bring out, as I close now, this is why David, the king of Israel, is so cherished, and why he merited that the Messiah would come from him. Because in popular secular literature, they like to pick up on the story of David and Bathsheba, or David and Bathsheba. And they like that. That's like a story that secularists, they're going to have so much fun with that story. And then on the other hand, David and Goliath, where he takes his slingshots. And there's absolutely nothing of the depth of spirituality and holiness that this young man and later grown man had. He was an extraordinary, extraordinary soul who, on having to run for his life several times, never in his life tried to hurt anyone who tried to kill him. He forgave every single one. You've learned with me so far about Saul. You later will learn with me about the problems when the family of Saul and Abner try to attack his people. You later will learn with me about what happened when his own son tries to kill him. His own son turns on him, Absalom, and actually exiles David. When David becomes king, he's actually going to be exiled from his palace. He will have to lead his entire family and his entire army out of the land of Israel into a foreign land, because his life is in danger, because his son is trying to kill him. Absalom, and how David had to come back from that. He lived an extraordinary life, enormous suffering. We don't really know about it. We're going to learn it. He went through the kind of suffering you can't begin to believe. And yet, he responded by writing psalms, Tehillim, songs to God, thanking God for everything he had. He saw only the good. He just didn't see the bad. He was extraordinary, and he was so holy. That's why David, the king of Israel, is forever. I look forward to one more class before the high holidays next Tuesday night, and then we're going to take like a 3-week hiatus as we go through the season of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah. It's a 3-week period of holidays, and then we'll resume the week of October 16. So we will, God willing, meet next Tuesday night, and then we'll be taking a 3-week hiatus. By the way, that doesn't mean that there's a guy named Hi out there who's a cannibal when I say hiatus. And I look forward to seeing all of